Hey, welcome everybody. Let everyone load in. Give it about a minute or so. All right, let's see. List is still loading. Give it another moment. All right, I think things are settling. We'll get kicked off. Thanks for your time, everyone, as always. So welcome to the monthly partner webinar. We are recording and just typical things as usual. So if you want to chat, banter, talk to others, make comments, let's use the chat, please. If you actually have questions you would like answered, I'll ask that you use the Q&A. That way I can keep track of them and actually make sure we've answered all the questions or respond to you if we weren't able to answer the questions live. Beyond that, let's kick it in. So my name is Robbie. I'm VP of Product here at Augmentt. Been here close to since the beginning now. For those of you who don't know me, the point of this webinar that we run on a monthly cadence is to let you guys know what we've been doing at Augmentt. So what we've been working on, what we've released, and what we're planning next. Uh, Overall, this is for you guys that we put this out. This is not marketing. This is not sales stuff. This is, typically our partners want to know where we're going, how they plan, what they need to learn, what's the new things they should be leveraging with the product. And we're always open to feedback to make these meetings better. So do send feedback on what else you'd like us to cover in these sessions. So I'll jump straight into the roadmap. And I mean, the monster reason we're here today is our release of Intune V1. So we're calling it V1 because, as always, and anyone who's been with us for a long time knows, we try to get the first version of the feature and capability out there that meets like 70, 80% of the typical needs. And then we keep building it out based on feedback to go deeper and deeper and touch on all the other niches of the product feature and area and how you'd like to see them and utilize them more based on feedback. So we'll cover in a moment through the demo here what Intune can do in its first iteration, but we've had the most people ever join a beta ever since we've released this. It's been in beta about a month and a half overall as we were building things out, maybe 2 months even, I'd say. And we have an incredible amount of people on the beta and feedback, and we can see on the back end logs a lot of utilization. So this is extremely exciting, and I think it's going to bring a whole unlock a whole new level of value within the product. So another interesting thing, I think I may have covered it very lightly before, but I'm having more and more conversations around how AI can help do more within your business. Um, I've definitely covered the fact that we have Augmentt AI available in beta testing in product, but we also have an MCP. So these are two different things. And we would like to put the MCP in beta. So the in product one, which I demoed before, is connected to Graph multi-tenant through your CSP, and you can query a tenant, you can make changes to a tenant, etc. Um, the Augmentt MCP allows you to have your own desktop AI or whichever version of AI allows connecting to an MCP, and that talks to the Augmentt API. And it's a different set of um, value propositions because the Augmentt API talks to all your customers at once, right? In similar way that Augmentt does and has these pages that span across your customers. So the Augmentt MCP can allow you to do things like find all my customers that doesn't have the audit log enabled as a simple example, and keep going, deeper beyond that. So within the data that's available within our API. So I'll show you that in a moment, but we're definitely open to having more people test this. We have a few people testing it now. Would definitely love to open that channel up, get feedback from you guys, see how we should build this out to bring additional value to the platform. We've been making changes to the alerts. Hope you've noticed. But based on feedback from the auto remediation, which is interesting because we're actually seeing a dip in usage of the manual block options within alerts. And that's because people are actually enabling the auto remediation and leveraging that portion of the product, which is dropping the stats on one side saying, hey, people no longer use the manual buttons. And then our logs show that the stats are increasing on the auto remediation side of things, which is amazing. I mean, those are the type of things that save you guys time, take care of your environment overnight, that kind of stuff. So it's awesome to see. And based on feedback, we were told that one of the alert types that should auto remediate is atypical travel. So that was included and released. And again, open to feedback. We'd love to see, are there other rules that should trigger auto remediations? Are there other types of auto remediations that should be included with specific types of rules? So, or alert types, I should say, so on and so forth. So again, great to see the usage. Would also love to get as much feedback from you guys as possible. We're very, very partner feedback driven company here. You'll notice a new column as well. So you've always been able to configure which alerts should generate notifications in your PSA, email, however you chose to connect it. Um, but all of the data always collected in Augmentt. And some of the feedback we got is, I don't care about that alert at all. So I don't want it to pollute even the Augmentt AI UI. Sorry, a little bit of habit. And I just want to turn it off so I can focus on the ones I really care about. And of those, then choose which ones will send notifications. So now there's a new enablement column available when you go into the settings section of your alerts. Again, you can do this across all customers globally, or you can do it tenant by tenant. So you always have the flexibility of setting exceptions, and then that will decide whether the alert should be included at all. So from our perspective, right, we won't even generate the alert. It won't have existed if you have this turned off, basically. This is also preparing us for other features that are coming in, which I'll touch on the roadmap section. And then the new greatest announcement on the alert section is that we'll shortly be releasing webhooks. So the webhooks are built, tested, shipping tomorrow on the back end. We'll be able to enable webhooks. So wherever you're getting notifications today to a PSA or an email, it could instead go to a webhook. The only piece missing that we're currently working on is this I'll show you in product, but the column where you enable email or ticketing notifications will include a webhook icon as well, where you'll be able to turn it on or off. So as of tomorrow, we'll be able to turn it on for you on the back end, just across your customers or whatnot. And moving forward, there'll be icons shortly so you can self-manage, set exceptions by customers, and so on, as we always do realistically. And then engage. So we'll show you this in product again in a moment during the demo. But one of the postures that I think a lot of people may not have realized existed before you join Augmentt is the fact that most user accounts can actually run PowerShell against your M365 environment by default. And so we've now included feedback that we received both internally from our managed service, which is a great thing of drinking our own champagne, and then generally from our customers is whenever they onboard users, this posture would go non-compliant. They'd have to go take care of the posture, and so that added an additional step, and it just made sense to include this by default on the onboarding flow. So our onboarding will now by default disable the PowerShell access for non-admin users. And of course, you can choose to override that and actually enable it. And that means you won't need to manually do a second step. And it's just pushing out best practices to your customers' environments that most environments don't have out of the gate. So there was a question of, does atypical travel auto-remediate conflict if you have an MDR monitoring for the same thing? I would say that depends. Is that other tool also remediating? Um, and then at worst, you could have two tools competing to block as quickly as possible, obviously depending on how the other tool is doing it. But I don't think you'd encounter issues unless one of the tools makes a bad judgment and just blocks things. But realistically, I think you'd just be having two tools compete to who can run the API as quickly as possible to block, is my opinion. So that was one of the questions. Thank you, Bill. So I'll jump into the demo. Let me just switch screens here. Okay, hopefully you're seeing Augmentt. Someone put a thumbs up in the chat or something. All right, awesome. Thank you. Uh, so as you see now, we've restructured some of the menu components, right? So you've got your alerts at the top. We've put the audit and the posture templates under your security posture. And now we've added the Intune component here. So brand new component with your device management, where you have the policies and your compliance templates. And then if you want to do your deployment profiles for that onboarding experience on devices, that's over here. So on onboarding, and of course, those of you on beta don't necessarily see this yet, but you have your deployment profiles, they're listing, but the deploy button is coming tomorrow. So that means that as of tomorrow, you'll be able to create your templates on the deployment side of things, roll them into baselines. You'll be able to deploy those templates onto customers or the baselines again. And you can already do this today through the beta for your policies, configuration, device configuration, and device compliances. And your templates for both are down here. So it's pretty straightforward if you have policies in any of your environments today. And that's kind of how we like to think of it. We don't want to replicate the stuff that Microsoft can do well that takes a lot of time to build for no reason, right? So Microsoft has a good UI to build a policy today. The part that they're not good at is the multi-tenancy part. So that's where we want to come and fill the gap. Otherwise, we're just slowing ourselves down building the parts that Microsoft already does okay. So what we say is go in any of your tenants. This probably already, if you're an Intune user, this probably already exists somewhere across your tenants. Create a new template, choose on which customer it exists today that has that great example of a template or a single policy that you want to use. Load up that policy. So I want to grab, the Augmentt default screen one, hit create, and I just created a template now, from that. And now I can go over here, take that policy, or I should say go to a different tenant and take that policy, which was the Augmentt default, and we can roll that out to customers, either by all users, all devices, by choosing specific groups or excluding specific groups. The typical way you'd push out a policy, the point is you bring it in once, now you can use it across all your customers consistently. And of course, you may want to have a set of templates that you deploy consistently. So instead of setting up a whole tenant and then copying that tenant over every time, all you're going to do is the same as we have in conditional access or Defender policies. You're going to make a baseline like I just selected. And oh, sorry, this is on the deploy page. So I'm going to create a baseline, choose which policies should be included in my baseline. So what's the set of things that I want to deploy to a customer every single time? Give it a name, give it a nice description so you can easily find it and you know what it's for. And now you've got my best baseline over here. So I can now go to any customer, such as this one, and deploy a baseline instead. Choose my best baseline. It's going to roll out all these things. right? On the next page here, we'll get to choose who these things should roll out to. This should be all devices. Maybe this is only a subset. Well, all companies, not a subset, but maybe just a sales team is getting encrypted, and so on and so forth. Next, and roll it out, right? So it makes it really, really easy to consistently roll out your policies. So again, I think you've got like 70, 80% of typical what you really need to get Intune going with your device configuration and your compliance and the net out-of-box experience. That's what we're considering our V1. We will be continuing to build this out. So the next thing we'll do is group management so that we can deploy group templates that'll be leveraged through your conditional access, your Defender, your Intune, and then we'll continue on the Intune itself. We'll probably prioritize based on feedback, but definitely considering apps, scripts, your Windows patching rings, and all that kind of stuff. Let me just see if I can catch up on some comments. Oh, well, someone just said it would be nice if we could create groups of template groups. And then he said, and I was just saying that. So uh, amazing. Glad we're on the same page there. That helps us validate where we're going. And we heard that a lot in feedback. So that's awesome to hear. Let me run over. So that's the Intune stuff, which is very exciting, I think. I'll jump over to Engage here. So on the user management front, we can create a user, enter our typical templated stuff, choose a license, choosing a domain helps. And over here, basically by default now, we will ensure that we are blocking Exchange Online partial access so that even if someone phishes or hacks a lower level account, they can't start running queries against an environment. And then if you want to override that for some reason because this user actually needs to do that, then you will be able to. But by default, if you just close your eyes and next, like your L1 team may do, I don't know, then you've got best practices in place, which is why we build things like Augmentt. We come out with all the security best practices out of box, and then you may choose to override them, but we make it easy to get the proper settings in place. And of course, that means that, let's see here, I can exit properly. When you go to your security posture and you search for that PowerShell posture, I could type. All right, so this is the one that we're talking about here, where you can absolutely come over here and disable all your users, but we don't want you to have to do it as another step now every time you create a user. And of course, that makes it easier and better to be deploying or creating users through Augmentt rather than through another platform or Microsoft itself, and then having to manually perform these steps. From an alert perspective here, so if I jump in, we look at our safe locations. We want to enable the auto remediation, and you'll see the new atypical travel. If you had enabled tenants already with auto remediation, we did not automatically turn this on. So we don't want to make unexpected changes to the environment. If you're turning on a tenant for the first time, it will be the default. And so if you have existing tenants and you want to enroll them or include atypical travel as one of the auto remediation types, make sure you go adjust them. Hopefully you're doing it globally so that you only have to hit one setting. But if you're doing it through company exceptions, then make sure you adjust them there as well. One question came up, which is, can we deploy security baselines? Not yet. So Intune, we've only included the three. So configuration profiles, compliance policies, and your deployment profiles. So security baselines is definitely on the horizon. Just close that one. Okay. And last, I talked about the Augmentt MCP here. So let me again switch shares. I've got a Claude open. We're using Claude. You could be using anything that supports an MCP realistically. What you'll see here is, I have, hey, scroll. Oh, it's up here now. It moves. Augment as a switch or a toggle. So Claude now understands Augment Talk, which is talking to our API. And so the way that works is you would request access to our API. We'll give you your keys, and you can generally just use the API. And then you can use Claude connected with the MCP that we help you connect. And then you can simply ask it questions. So I chose a simple question like, list all my Augment customers. It figures out how to do that based on our API, and it lists all my customers. Um, so I could ask it, you know, now who knows if it'll take a bit of time, or we've been hammering our subscription, so we might sometimes we time out on the request there, but generally speaking, that works very well if you're not hammering through it and running through all your credits. But that's a very nice thing is this becomes a cross-tenant way of talking to your environment rather than a tenant by tenant way. Yeah, so here we go. It's able to start finding my tenants that don't have, and it looks like in my case, only one of them does not have the audit log enabled. So that gives you a good example of how this could work. And then if you wanted to generate, we've done M365 best practices, reports, assessments, give me a roadmap for implementing CIS on M365, so on and so forth. This stuff does it. It can use a combination of what's available in Augment, search online, etc. So very powerful stuff, and we're happy to give you access to this, to generate more value basically within your business. Let me run back through to my presentation, and I'll answer a couple. So first of all, I'm seeing a lot of +1 for groups, so I'm really glad our team is literally working on it right now. So that's awesome validation. Glad you guys are looking at that. Um, yeah, there's comments about lacking an audit trail. Again, we don't have in product in UI audit trails at the moment. We do have it all on the backend logs. So whenever you make a change into a Microsoft environment, where we log those changes, and if you contact support, we can send you your reports on it. Um, it's not as convenient, of course, as having it in the UI. To date, we've preferred to build you features rather than auditing, but auditing is absolutely on the horizon. So I just wanted to make sure I answer that one. There's another question about, so we noticed recently guest users are automatically added. I imagine it's good practice to monitor users via Augment. I'd like to hear your opinion. Yeah, there's a couple schools of thought on that one. We've heard them all. Definitely, obviously, guest users, if you choose to monitor them, uh, they'll cost you licenses, of course, from the Augment perspective. If you look at, I don't just take my own experiences as recommendations. If you read Microsoft's literature, they're recommending that guest users are monitored, that you enforce MFA in your environment on guest users, so on and so forth. But we do have ways for you to, if you don't want to monitor them through our import settings, they can be manipulated out of our defaults, and you can exclude them from a monitoring perspective and not pay for those licenses. It all depends on what risks you're willing to take. In the end, they are a user that has access to some stuff in the environment, and do you want to ensure that they're locked out fully or not? Not monitoring them because they're just a guest, and then someone gives them more permissions by mistake, and then a hacker takes advantage of that is definitely a way to get hacked, right? So that's really where it comes from. But great question. And of course, we're always happy to have conversations around that. Like obviously I'm giving you a quick like 10-second answer here. You want to get on a call, chat about it, we'd be happy to. And in fact, we'd love to, hear from you guys on it too. Yeah, am I wrong? Are there better ways of thinking about it? Is there something the product should be doing differently to better take care of it? So on and so forth. So let's jump into the roadmap side of things. So, what are we releasing? Release days tomorrow. Tomorrow we get the Intune device configs, compliances, and Intune enrollment. We're going official V1 release with that. The API webhooks come out, with the contact support type of enablement, and then we'll have the UI components soon enough, and then engage PowerShell access and so on. On the beta, I've shown before, I didn't go through it today, but we have the in-product AI that I'm definitely happy where you can, when you're deploying a conditional access policy, you can have the AI analyze that policy before rolling it out and what its potential impacts are to the environment. So again, reach out if you'd like to try that out. And then the MCP I just talked about. What we're actively working on right now, those group baselines that everyone seems to be adding a +1 for, so I'm happy to hear. Actually, I didn't show this, but we're building out our Intune out-of-box policies. That was feedback from the beta, and it was obvious to us, like we have out-of-box recommendations for conditional access, we have out-of-box recommendations for Defender, and we are building out the list of out-of-box recommendations on Intune actively, and we may even fast follow that. You might not even have to wait a full release for them. CSP permission management is on the radar for us. We'll be starting work on that or this quarter or this, yeah, with it before end of year. We won't be completing before end of year, but that's something that actively building on the roadmap. Right now we're doing engage user editing. So some of the feedback we got is that you can create new users, you can assign, change their settings, etc., but you can't edit a user. So update their primary domain, add a company location or any of those additional settings that you typically have on a user. And that goes with the engage user profile. So we're going to expose all those columns that are typically available when you go to identity and look at a user, all the extra properties that are available. And the one question our VP of engineering has is, do we really need to include a fax number? I'm not biased. We're just asking. It is 2025, so let us know. Next, what we're going to continue on from a roadmap perspective. So once we finish the groups, we're keep going into Intune. We hope we're going to get a ton of feedback on whether you need us to add, improvements to the existing Intune things we've released. If you want us to go down security baselines first, or update rings, or apps and scripts, so on and so forth. We have a pretty good idea, but we're still open to the short-term direction where we know what we'll be building out long-term, basically everything policy-wise from Intune. Posture drift alerts are also en route. So that is, we have drift alerting right now for a lot of like overarching things like MFA, block legacy auth, if your conditional access changes, that kind of stuff. But we want to put drift alerting on the posture checks themselves. So if a check goes from compliant to not compliant, or compliant to partial, or partial to not compliant, we want to be able to send automated notifications out for that kind of stuff. And that's where the alerting, the enablement piece was coming from earlier as well. So you may have postures that you don't care about, and we're kind of preparing for that because we know that based on licensing, you may not want to monitor certain postures and things like that. So it's a little bit of preparation for this feature, and this should bring a ton of value in not requiring you to go through those reports for your security audit and just rely on some alerting to take care of it for you. And then, of course, we have planning. So we've been having a lot of talks about security milestones and compliances. So this is building a updated framework that I showed, I think, last month, so that you can create your own set of templates within the product in terms of what we should be monitoring, stack them so you can monitor many things at once. And then we want to build out all, this will allow us to build out all the out-of-box CIS, NIST, Essential 8, get to CMMC. We're getting a lot of requests, NIST too as well, so on and so forth. And currently, while we have them at the posture level, this will roll them up and kind of group them as templates that you can enable. And so we're seeing a lot of demand for that. And if you're interested in talking about it, we are as well. We're constantly trying to refine and plan how that should look. As you can see, it came up as a question in the audit log, and that's definitely something we're planning. And then we're officially on the Pax8 store now, which happened a couple of weeks ago. And one thing we're strongly considering is adding the ability to buy your Microsoft licenses through Pax8 via Engage. I'm seeing a lot of vote here for, by the way, I love that we're doing this. I haven't seen really this much going in the chat where people were kind of voting for features, and I really, really love it. So keep that up. It helps provide guidance, lets us know what you care about. Really cool. We love to do the learning track sometimes. So next week, David Haynes has a kind of follow-up webinar to the one we did roughly a month ago. We're going to go deeper specifically in PIM and talk about best practices with PIM. So if you want to join that webinar, you can go to augmentt.com and subscribe to that one. Oh, someone likes the license procurement. That's awesome to hear. As much as I enjoy the voting in our chat and don't stop, I will continue to encourage people to join our community. We're getting more and more traction. Literally every time we have one of these webinars, more people join. The more people join, the better the conversations, the more feature requests we get, the more voting we get on features, and the better the direction that Augmentt gets from you guys, which is amazing. That's all I care about when it comes to the primary things of my job, is really understanding what we can build that makes your lives better and build it at the right time for you guys. So hopefully more of you sign up. Typically my mailbox starts blowing up about 5 minutes after the screen comes up. We love to have you on there. Last but not least, we will be doing a promo with Intune. So the way this works, as you've seen in the past, is we always release the first version of a feature, right? And then it gets built out, built out, built out. It starts kind of compact, meeting 70-80% of the need, like I've said, but it has to extend to really all the kind of niche use cases that we end up using. That is what we'll refer to as Intune V2, but we want to offer a promo. People who adopt Intune early will get early pricing, and that pricing will not increase when we get V2. V2 will likely drop into iterations, and so you'll get access to it immediately. Whereas when we have built out V2 functionality, that will have an increased price overall. So I guess I should say, look, it says contact Adam. Most of you know who that is. If by chance you don't feel like emailing Adam, or you forget, just reach out to support. We're a small company. It'll get to the right person. We'll take care of you. Adam would love to have chats with you. A trial is available as well. So if you want to try out the Intune functionality, because you may not currently be on the beta, happy to give you access. And that's it for today. I will try to get through some questions here that have popped up. So one of the questions is if I have thoughts or plans on documenting out of compliance posture settings. We spend a lot of time rehashing things that are not turned on for a reason. Yeah, very interesting. In fact, I'd love to have a chat with you. So well, Matt, you know who you are. Feel free to ping me. Our emails are all first.last@augmentt.com. I think the security milestones and compliance thing on the roadmap, we have plans around that for what you're talking about, but we'd love to flesh them out a little bit further for sure. Um, any plans to report on M365 Defender vulnerability scores and a list of recommendations that are required? The answer is generally yes. That falls under Intune. Um, I'd love to have that conversation with you, actually. We have a list. We we know our product is very different where it's outcome based, right? So you apply policies to our product, you apply settings, and then you've always got your posture to go and validate that the environment is generating the outcomes that you're looking for. We got to build out the policies, be able to push them. The monitoring of that will absolutely come in place. So that was Lorcan. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Again, ping me. When you have an idea of what you'd like to see, those are the details that help us really dial in the scope, and we'd love to have a chat with you. Oh, and I think people are going to the community, so thanks for that feedback. No new questions have come in. That's it for today, folks. We try to keep it nice and short, straight to the point. We love your feedback. We love the engagement. Thank you for your time. You can reach out to me, but otherwise, I will see you next month. Thanks, everyone. Bye.